Hey guys and girls, and welcome back to another What If here. Today we are doing part 2 to What If Female Naruto had the Phoenix contract. And yeah, if you don't know what happened in the last part 1, there'll be a link in the description below which takes you to a playlist where you can, well, of course, watch part 1 and this part and then the other future part that you guys may or may not want. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into where we left off. So once the smoke had cleared, there would be standing Naruto and a giant 7-foot tall phoenix as Hiruzen would be surprised, and the only thing that was going through his mind was Kushina, though Naruto, for how she looked like, was somewhat like in the picture and thumbnail of the redhead girl, though her hair went down to her knees. So instead of beautiful, somewhat blood red hair went down to her knees. So yeah, though otherwise you'd still have blue eyes, beautiful blue eye, baby blue eyes, I think, or no, they're bright blue eyes. Yeah, bright blue eyes, beautiful blood red hair down to her knees. And we'd be wearing what the front that shows, and Hiruzen could only really think Kushina, because she looked almost exactly like Kushina. And Yugao's mouth was just on the floor as she couldn't believe she's seen a actual real phoenix, which were known as legends, myths, kind of stuff. Though many believe that they did and do exist as a summoning animal, but she didn't really somewhat believe it. But there was one right in front. Though the phoenix would turn to Naruto and go, "Well then, Naruto, I shall bid you a farewell for right now, though just remember this: no matter what circumstance you're in, be it fighting or if you're just lonely and wanting a chat, we are here to help you, no matter what. Got it? Hi, Sam." The 7-foot tall phoenix would just somewhat nod, would slightly nod before disappearing in a puff of smoke, and so it's just somewhat start at his, and let's go, hey Gigi, it's been a while, I guess, as Hiruzen would snap out of his the stupor, his the stunned silence, and go, hi Naruto, as they would start talking, more so Hiruzen, as for Naruto, for poor Naruto, who somewhat went to sleep as a boy and woke up as a gal. Like, it was just one day you went to sleep and the next day you woke up and pretty much as a woman for the rest of his life now, or her life. And of course when the phoenixes came back to tell him that Naruto would be turning female due to the sheer amount of chakra that he has, and that so he'd somewhat went through all of Armbu, like the Kunoichi and Armbu, to see which one would be the best deal for Naruto, for helping Naruto to somewhat just train Naruto and teach her stuff that the academy will probably would never bother teaching her, him, her. And yeah. And yeah, so he chose someone Yuga by the end of it. Or Cat. Though he would somewhat a bit, just about how, how times have, well, no, not how times have changed, just what somewhat happened within, the year and that, and yeah, and also that should be trained, or should be somewhat, being trained under Cat here for up until next summer, as like the start of next summer, as that's when the academy will go on the break, and that's when she can either choose to, like, say, start the academy again, of course, with with the same class she would have been in, or she can continue to be with Kat and continue to train under her up until she's 12, while then she'll go for a slightly altered Genin exam to make sure she is ready to become a Genin, and that Kat hadn't skipped in any. Well, yeah, I didn't somewhat skipped in anything that a Genin should obviously be able to know. So yeah. And Houston would also tell her that he also somewhat got her a new apartment, which that would be surprised and would somewhat ask why, as Houston would somewhat state that his old apartment was kind of course, even now I don't know, was not in a great area. It was okay, but yeah, and that. Well, yeah, and so instead he'd give her a new better apartment, and also, yeah, and so after somewhat more back and forward, he was of course, while His and I hadn't really dragged Yugo into it, as Yugo had still been in her own mind, completely stunned at seeing a legend, a myth, a legend. So, yeah, though, after somewhat 10 or so minutes, Susan would finally call up Cat, which would snap out for stupor, as Susan would then somewhat tell her that that should be taken out to her apartment would be shown Naruto the way to her apartment, and she would somewhat nod as he'd give Naruto new apartment keys to her new apartment or flat, and yeah, Yuga would walk over and would Kat would walk over, put her hand somewhat on Naruto's shoulder as they would somewhat say goodbye to Hiruzen, as Kat would then send them over to a apartment complex, and once they'd arrive, they would somewhat walk up, and Kat would proceed to take Naruto to where Naruto's apartment is, and once getting to the correct floor and door, she'd tell Naruto to unlock it, and that was some apartment. So yeah, Naruto would somewhat put the key in, and of course her hair and her own body had enhanced him, so her own now her body still had enhanced him, maybe even more enhanced. And she could somewhat hear the slight grinding of metal, this slight compression or noise that the small springs would make pushing as the key would obviously going over the somewhat bumps in the key. And then once it was alright in somewhat turning it, hearing all the somewhat grinding on these like quite grind on metal and all the somewhat mechanism working to pull the some piece of metal out of the doorway. And once it was unlocked, she would then hold the handle and turn that, hearing the mechanism in the door and the spring somewhat compress. And once she'd open the door and some walk in, she would it would look slightly similar, though different, of course. More somewhat up to date, slightly bigger as well, and she would somewhat just run off. She was, of course, excited, and she'd run off, throughout the entire house. As you go, would walk in and would shut the door behind. Cat would walk in, shut the door, and would go and somewhat sit in the living room, as it was fully furnished. It was made sure it was. And he'd somewhat told Cat to somewhat go there once a week to have the apartment clean, and Susan gave her the spare key because she'd be training Naruto for the better part of a while. So then of course Naruto found her, where she'd be, obviously sleeping, the Uzumaki symbol above her bed. And when she went over to where the closet would be, instead of it being a closet, it'd actually be a small walk-in wardrobe, so you could walk into it slightly. It wasn't that big of one, but it was not. It was okay. Yeah, it'd be enough to somewhat suit. Well, it'd be somewhat enough to suit somewhat a kunoichi, a serious kunoichi, so one that doesn't go spending all that money on clothes and that constantly. And Naruto would then somewhat walk out. Of course, there was no clothes and that in there. Of course not. The only clothes she had was what she was wearing, and the only underwear she had was also what she was wearing. So she would have to go out shopping with Cat to obviously get some clothes, some night clothes, and underwear, of course. But at least she wouldn't have to, go out buying bed and have it, and kitchen stuff and living room stuff and living room / front room stuff. It was all there. It was made sure it was. And she'd walk out and she'd just somewhat sit down, as she would just say that she loved it, and that she couldn't believe Gigi, had spent, probably a lot of Ryu, a lot of money doing this for her, as and somewhat when she'd gone in to clean it, even she could somewhat understand that it was Houston had definitely spent a decent amount of money making sure it was all nice and that. And the room was somewhat big enough to house a double bed, so that's what Hiruzen got her instead of the small single bed that Naruto was sleeping in. He got her a double bed for just the sake of it. He somewhat wanted to show her that whilst he may not be able to always help her, because he has to somewhat be seen as indifferent, at least he could, somewhat spoil her in this aspect, because nobody's not really going to know. They're just going to believe that she saved up her money she got from the orphanage money that she'd get, and that she bought this stuff over time. But in reality, he was gonna just spend all the money to, yeah. Though, and yeah, she was happy. She loved it. And yeah, though of course, as I said, she'd sit down in the living room as her and Kat would start talking to one another, getting to know one another, and yeah, and so the time would go by as of course, somewhat Kat knew what she somewhat had to focus on for Naruto, which was chakra control, which Susan had told her that above everything else, chakra control had to come first. Chakra. So once she was around once she was around low tuning, Susan told her once she was around low tuning, you can start teaching her some other stuff as well. But chakra control should always be the main priority, and then say rewarding her maybe like with a jutsu or like a different type of training. Like I teach, say, going from say low tuning to say mid or high tuning. Well, yeah, going from low tuning to mid tuning, she gets maybe like something else you can say training either with her or by herself in her free time or that. Yeah, though Hazen also had another statement, which was to get her at least somewhat get her into Funjutsu, as of course he wasn't somewhat stupid. Jiraiya really was now the only somewhat Funjutsu master, quote unquote, in the elemental really nations. Nobody really could somewhat beat him at it, besides from Minto when he was alive, and obviously definitely Kushina. Kushina could easily beat both Minto and Jiraiya, because she taught Minto not exactly everything, I believe. She just taught Minto a decent amount of Uzumaki Funjutsu. Yeah, because after all, husband and wife, so that's what she would do anyway, though. And yeah, of course, at first, Naruto wasn't exactly pleased, and yeah, of course, also during that time, Naruto was also thinking of a new name to, call herself. Of course, she didn't necessarily need a new name; she could go by Naruto, but she was thinking of obviously very much having a different name, as as it would just somewhat be better. Well, maybe not exactly better, but she didn't really know. She just wanted a somewhat new name or that. Yeah, though the summer would come around and Yuga had trained her. I'm gonna obviously, Yuga has Naruto within like a week or two from when Kat started training her. She had eventually told Naruto after a week or two her actual real name, which was obviously Yuga, and to never somewhat tell anyone her real name, as she could be thrown out of obviously Anbu, because people would know her, who she was then. And now they would promised her that she wouldn't, and yeah, they got close. They got so close that they somewhat looked at each other. They looked at each other like sisters. Yeah, Yuga obviously being the older, and so also somewhat around a month and a half after that, I'd decided on a somewhat name for her. Yukina? Yeah. Yukina. Yukina. And yeah. And so that's what I'm going to be calling her by now. And yeah, yeah, besides obviously that, you guy trained her in obviously chakra control, and that was high tuning, low, borderline low joning in chakra control. She was okay at Kenjutsu, or the art of the sword, or yeah, she's okay at it. She also could somewhat control the antimatter chains. Yes, she had awoken those, which was yeah. She was good in Funjutsu and getting better quickly. And yeah, she had mastered the transformation and replacement. She mastered those. The clone jutsu she couldn't get down no matter what. So, and also Kat had asked Husen had told Kat to, or Yugao to somewhat, if she thinks that Nato has enough chakra, then by all means go and give her the and teach her the shadow clone jutsu, though at least somewhat tell her that teaching anyone else it could actually kill them, as yeah, due to them having not having the same amount of body reserves, that it requires Jonin level reserves, and she's probably got well above Jonin. I don't even know how much. So Kat just you guys nodded, and yeah. And yeah, so Yukina and here's a mid somewhat knock on the Yukina's apartment door, as she'd go over and open them and go, hey Gigi, as who's hi, Yukina-chan, how are you doing today? So I'm okay, Gigi. How about you? So I'm doing as good as I can be, as this old man can be. So just someone nod and gesture for Hazen to come in, which he would after taking off his shoes in the entranceway. As he then walk over into the living room. And once he did that, Nat would, of course, shut and then lock a front door. As she then somewhat walk into the living room and somewhat sit down. And, as Hisaman go, now then, as you somewhat know, Yukina, it's now the start of today is where the academy, the academy is out for a month, so it's now up to you. Do you want to go back to the academy? Well, of course, you'll be with, Sasuke, Sakura, Shikamaru, Kiba, I forgot the others. Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, yeah, and of course, Iruka and that, and or I just hear him go, or you can continue to somewhat train under I forgot her name now, Yugao-chan here. So it's up to you, Yukina, it's up to you. As she'd somewhat thinking, she'd been thinking for the last month, 2 months, really, since Susan had told her that she would be training under Cat, aka Yugao, of course. And yeah, she'd been thinking about somewhat the academy, and at first she somewhat did want to go back to the academy, but after a while, and of course, as her chakra control did increase, Yugao did obviously start, training different things, and had somewhat told Yukina that the only reason why she's, the main reason why they're prioritising chakra is because of her immense reserves, and that having big reserves are good-ish. They're good because it allows one to use more chakra draining techniques, but the bad thing is the control required, and that the bigger your reserves, the worse your control. Of course, for Uzumakis, because of their connection to their chakra, they can actually somewhat learn control a lot faster than the average shinobi can. A shinobi could take, say, a month to learn, well, not really a month, say a week to learn how to walk up a tree, and for an Uzumaki it would take them the same amount of time. And it's like, yeah, so it takes them the same amount of time. Yeah, the same amount of time, but an Uzumaki both say at 12, the Uzumaki would have 100 to maybe even 1,000 times the amount of chakra the 12-year-old child does. So yeah, their connection to their chakra allows them to learn complex jutsus and chakra control exercises faster. And yeah, and anyway though, yeah, after of course somewhat explaining obviously how important somewhat control is, and that obviously the smaller your reserves the better you control, because that's also a double edge, as you can have perfect damn control, but your reserves are so tiny it's practically pointless to use chakra in the first place. You wouldn't really be able to use chakra at all, because you'd have so little of it that it was, any jutsu could pretty much kill you. And so that's why control, especially for someone like Naruto, was extremely important, because a lot of jutsus may be, say, fine within a certain, say, like target, like a certain amount of, say, over amount of chakra, but Naruto could easily, trying to do that jutsu could straight up, throw, could easily go well out of that range. And yeah, so she really needed control. Anyway though, and yeah, she'd of course thought about somewhat the academy every time she'd somewhat crawl into bed, when she'd just somewhat stare up, to the roof, or well, to a ceiling, not the roof, and was somewhat just thinking about it, as she'd somewhat decided that she didn't really need the academy. Well, it wasn't obviously somewhat arrogant speaking, as she had a teacher that was teaching her more than what the academy would ever bother teaching her. She knew that, and she'd go, well, Gigi, I would like to continue training with Yugao Ni-chan, as Hisam would somewhat nod and would go, well, Yugao, are you? Hi, Hokai-sama, I am perfectly fine with continuing to train her. As Hisam somewhat smart and have a somewhat smile on his face, as well, yeah, he'd be happy. Of course, if Naruto wanted to come back to the academy, then there's clearly something, wrong with maybe Yugao or that, or how Yugao taught. So yeah, though he knew Naruto would eventually obviously end up, going with obviously Yugao to continue training. yeah. And yeah, he was gonna then go, well then I guess I, best be off. And, well, of course, news, obviously, somewhat be good. And, yeah. And, yeah, he would leave after giving Naruto the, orphan, the money he should get from the orphanage or whatever, being an orphan. And, yeah, he's in, well, Naruto would obviously, see, say goodbye and that, and yeah, they so then somewhat closed the door and go back into the living room and would ask Kat, well, no, not Kat, Yuga, what they were going to do now or train now in those. And yeah, from that point, pretty much nearly, oh yeah, pretty much. Well, no, a somewhat couple more, well, say a month or two would go by as all of a sudden Nato's door would be thrown open. Not a front room, not a front door, her bedroom door, as Nato would snap her head to her somewhat sister figure and Sensei and would go, Nichan, as Yuga would go, no, Kino, what's wrong? I was knocking on, your door for deep out part of 10 or so minutes, like, are you okay? What's wrong? As Nato go, not Nato, Yukina would go, sorry, Nichan, something somewhat seems weird with my mirrors. You go cracking eyebrow and go, what do you mean? Well, it makes somewhat like it's. I can't explain it. That video, it's just it was somewhat making my chest look weird. You go crack an eyebrow and after closing out Yukina's bedroom door, she would walk over to Yukina and like after somewhat looking a bit sideways at her, and then looking somewhat at the mirror at her own self, and then looking at Naruto, she'd realise what Naruto meant, and she'd go, aha, no Naruto, no Yukina, damn it, yes, no Yukina, your mirror is perfectly fine. So then what's it's natural, as you can go, what's natural? So as you can, as Yuga would point to Yukina's chest. Somewhat mild poker, itsy bitsy, slight bump in her chest. Somewhat poke them and go, that is natural. Yukina, every girl grows breasts, and they generally start around 10 to 11 years old. Breasts start developing, or their chest starts to develop. So yeah, so you don't need to worry, and it ain't your mirror. Your chest is growing bigger. She'd go, she'd somewhat scratch the back of her head in slight embarrassment as you go and just shake her head in amusement. And of course you go and sit down on Yukina's bed, gesturing for Yukina to sit down herself, and when she did, you go and then explain that within probably the next, say, maybe 2, 3, 4 months, she would maybe possibly start her period, and Yukina was curious on what this period thing was, so Yuga would obviously explain what periods are and that, and yeah, Nato, well, not Nato, Yukina she wasn't exactly sure if she was somewhat thrilled or scared, just, mixed emotions, as it obviously starting a period meant that, she'd be becoming a woman now, a lady, a gal, well, not a gal, a adult. But also it meant that she could then, get pregnant, have a child, and yeah, she knew strongly she was no mother. She was not ready to be a mother yet. She wanted, to focus on her career that hasn't even started yet. She wanted to, she wanted to, be a shinobi and to be a strong kunoichi. And yeah, though somewhat Yuga would just rub her head and would somewhat tell her to not worry, like she would, be here for her from, every step of the way. As she, goes into her period, has her first period and that. And yeah, Nato would, Yukina would throw her arms around her somewhat bigger, somewhat older sister figure and would, thank her for it, for, that. And yeah, though once she'd gotten dressed into her somewhat more, when she somewhat got dressed and had breakfast, they'd then head off to do what Yuga had planned for her to do today. And with that, from there, a year and, months would go by. In other words, Nato would now be 12 years old. She'd now be 12, Yukina would be 12 years old, as she'd be somewhat, she'd be somewhat sitting on the Hokage monument as she'd watch the sunrise as she got up, slightly earlier than what she was meant to. But she just was somewhat excited, as today was the day that should be tested to make sure, tested to see if she can, if Yuga trained her right and, brought her somewhat up correctly. Trained in the correct stuff that a genin should know, chunin, jonin should know when they of course graduate to become a genin. And she was somewhat looking forward to it. Of course, over those 2 years, she'd somewhat grew to somewhat master the end mountain chain. She can now change the shape of her chain. So from instead of just being chained, she could change it into a sword, a katana that she's gotten quite used to wielding, of course. And of course, with the chains, with her ability to change the chains into a katana, what meant was that say if she stuck the Endermantian katana into someone and let go of it, instead of disappearing because it's disconnected from her chakra, it can absorb any chakra from her to keep it materialized. It would switch over to somewhat pulling the chakra, whatever chakra it was now in, whatever it was now in. So in other words, if she stabbed say she stabbed and left it in Kakashi, it would drain Kakashi's chakra network. It would drain Kakashi of his chakra to keep the sun materialized. Though also it would suppress his control over his chakra, so it'd feel like for Kakashi it'd feel like his chakra was just vanishing, or it felt like he had no chakra whatsoever, though of course he did. The sword was just draining it. And of course left in would drain the person to absolute zero, and they would of course die with having no chakra available. And yeah, and so yeah, it was pretty somewhat. It may, and obviously being made of, what the, because it was just somewhat they changed in a different form. It couldn't break. It could cut through anything and pretty much anything and everything. It could cut through easily as, yeah. And yeah, so she'd somewhat be just sitting there, and she'd somewhat think, about Kushina and Minato, and somewhat how her life is changed from when she used to be Naruto, a boy, and how one simple contract, and how one simple meeting with a phoenix changed her, his entire life to what it is now, her life now, and somewhat changed it in her point of view, for the better. Sure, she may be, a girl now, and well after, maybe once she's say 20, or maybe even in her somewhat 30s, decides to, get pregnant, have, settle down and have a child with whoever she may fall in love with. Yeah, though one thing was for sure, her goal was still to become Hokage. She did not give a damn. She wanted to become Hokage. And yeah, and of course, Yuga and Hiruzen knew that her passion to become Hokage just increased even more so. And yeah. And though eventually, obviously, the sun would somewhat rise, and Yuga would sunshine would appear beside Yukina, as she'd go, she'd somewhat sit down and would go, ready Yukina-chan, your test starts in a couple of minutes, so we better get over to the tower. So just nod down and go, I'm as ready as I can be, Ni-chan. I'm as ready as I can be. And with that, they would sunshine over. And and it would somewhat, and unlike the normal gaining exam, that would take maybe, so the normal gaining exam may take, say, 2.5 hours, and now for the written test, and then like maybe half an hour to an hour and a half to get through all the other students. When it comes to kunai, shuriken, and transformation, replacement, and clone jutsu. So say 2.5 to 3 hours in total. It would take, though, Yukina's test would be around 4 hours. 4 hours. An hour an hour to an hour and a half in a test to make sure her knowledge is right for what it should be for Genin, or of course again Chunin, or even Jonin. She can have obviously more info. She could she could have Jonin level information. It wouldn't obviously matter. It just means she's right into becoming a Genin. It just means that you got prepared her for her eventual promotion to Chunin and Jonin. So then of course it went to Kuna and Shoken Throne, where they'd go from like academy to getting in from say academy, like academy difficulty to then gaining difficulty, tuning, low joning, mid joning. As low joning tend to do with high B ranks, low A ranks. Mid jonings tend to deal with the mid to high in A ranks, and of course high joning, or the elite, somewhat, or what I consider the elite jonin, deal with S rank. The most dangerous missions of them all, S rank. And of course after, should get a passing grade up until around mid to high tuning, where her kunai, somewhat kunai checking skills start to drop, and at low jonin she can, when they tried on mid jonins, it was a fail, though she passed, was more than obviously passed it. And of course that took a bit of time, and from there then was obviously a jutsu test. So not really the clone jutsu, because Pizunushi can do it, so it would be Shadow Clone, Transformation, Replacement, and any other jutsu she may know of that she's willing to show them. And so she'd show them, she'd do Shadow Clone, and would make, say, around 100 clones, easily have them all transform into different people, and then of course have them somewhat release, then obviously all somewhat seamlessly, and do a seamless replacement. From there, you can tell that she'd pass, though if she wants to show any other jutsu, she could, by all means, she can, so she'd say she'd like to. And Naruto would go, Naruto would not, and would state that she did have a jutsu or two that she'd like to show them, so they would somewhat none, then obviously tell them to show them, and she'd go through around 20 to 25 hand signs, and after reaching the last hand sign, the 20th to 25th hand sign, she'd then slam a hand on the ground, where then four black objects would come from a hand, and after a second or so, Hiruzen would go wide-eyed as he'd realise what those black lines were. That was Funjutsu. And after another 5 or so seconds, it would be complete, and a massive barrier would erupt. As she would then put her hands together after a second or so of showing it, she would then put her hands together, say release, then go through 5 or so hands, say around 3 to 5 hand signs, and then slam her hand on the ground, saying Funjutsu, Funjutsu release. As the Funjutsu would seemingly seem to boil, as smoke would just rise up, and once the smoke had risen up a certain distance, the Hiruzen and his arm boot that were marking her, could see there was no Funjutsu left, and they were somewhat in awe. And she'd then go through 2 hand signs, and would put her hand on the ground, though before we get into what she's about to do, Yukina or at least the battle that she did, used to require 100 hand signs for her to initially do. But now she's got it down to 25 with the aid of obviously the shadow clone, which Yuga would tell her, about the memory transfer. Why wouldn't she? It'd be stupid for her to leave that out. So she told her, and yeah, because eventually, she could obviously do it. Minto could, kind of. Kushina obviously could. She's a damn Uzumaki, of course she could. And yeah, I don't think Dryer can place Funjutsu just by chakra, or it's like certain very specific seals that Kushina had showed him, had showed Dryer as the five elemental seal that was placed on Naruto in canon to the start, obviously to that Orochimaru had placed on Naruto, was taught by him, Jiraiya, and I think Tsunade by Kushina. So the 5 elemental seals taught to them by Kushina. Yeah, it was an Uzumaki seal, and obviously Kushina knew it, thus she showed it to them. Anyway, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, though, back to what she was about to do. She'd go through 2 hand signs, as she'd then slam a hand on the ground, while then a wall of earth would appear. She'd then go through another 2 hand signs, as a wall of water would appear. She'd then go through another 2 hand signs, and a billet of wind would form, and and would somewhat fire off. Then she'd go through another 2 sets of hand signs, and a ball of fire would appear, that being, of course, fire style fireball. So the first jutsu was earth style earth wall or mud wall, second one water style water wall, third one was wind style. What I like to call wind style wind bullet, because it's not a vacuum bullet, it's not a vacuum, it is very much a pressurized sharp air, it's a pressurized bullet of air. Next one, obviously, fire style fireball, and the last one, lightning style lightning bullet. It was somewhat her own somewhat jutsu, because there was no lightning bullet, so she decided to do it. And yeah, of course, for her it was easy. And yeah, of course, though, everyone was, Hiruzen and the other army were somewhat in awe that she could do the 5 nature element, the 5 basic natures that you go trained doing, all 5 of them. They were, at surprise, and yeah, and of course nobody was bothering to ask where the heck she got water from, because there was no water anywhere nearby. Well, there was waters all around us. It's in the air itself. She did what the Sakura Kage could, Tobirama, and poured water straight from the air, which was, after a while of hard elemental chakra control exercises, she very much could do it. She would then release the earth and water wall, as they would fall back to the floor, as she would then go through 2 sets of hand signs again 5 times, as 5 different things would 5 things would similarly appear, but they'd be formed differently. So these would be elemental clones. So they would first be an earth style earth clone, water style water clone, lightning style lightning clone, and yes, fire style fire clone, and wind style wind clone, which was extremely, or at least at first was extremely hard for her to do, because she needed to compress air to an insane degree. And of course, after being able to somewhat do that, she then figured what would happen if she compressed more air into the wind bullet. And well, initially it showed no, but the more pressure she put in the wind bullet, she eventually started to see obviously return in that adventure, and the more pressure she put in, the stronger it slowly got. So yeah, to a point where it could easily stay in contact going through a brick wall. It could easily sail through. Well, it could easily sail through a meter wide, meter thick tree. It could easily go through that. Same, and of course, after doing that to the wind bullet, she thought, "Wow, yeah." Yukina thought, "Well, could water, do that as well?" Because water bullet was extremely pathetic. It just, dispelled and splashed with water. So she tried it, and she found out it was even harder to do than what wind was. As obviously wind is gas, water is a fluid. Fluid hates being compressed, but can be very violent. So just being even say 1 psi, so just being compressed even once, so 1 psi, it or 1 bar 1 psi pounds, 1 psi, it somewhat slightly dented the tree slightly before dispelling, and the more pressure you put into it, the more it would somewhat go slightly through the tree before dispelling. Eventually she got it down to a point where it was maybe around, say, like near enough 2,000, 3,000 psi, and it could somewhat shoot through the tree. And of course, the more psi, the more pressure she put the water bullet under, or the more pressure she put in the water in the water bullet, the more destructive damage it could do. And of course, ironically, she also somewhat made a bastardized version of the Rasengan, though not using, of course, pure chakra. What she was doing was using wind chakra, because she saw just how dangerous obviously wind was stated to be a very good element for obviously swords, because you could channel wind chakra through it, and your katana or sword could now cut through near enough anything. So she decided, and seeing how strong the wind bullet could go, she decided to make a ball of wind that was highly compressed, that could fit in her palm, and that was violently spinning. And she decided to call it wind style violent ball, because it was just a violent it's a ball of wind. And she tried it out with water and fire as well, although water was somewhat didn't really do much. And the same with somewhat fire, because it lacked obviously oxygen. So it didn't somewhat do much. So she decided to try and mix fire and wind together, as they were somewhat elements that complemented each other like no other element in the elemental thing, the 5 basic elements. So that's what she would try and do, and eventually after a month of trying, she would manage to combine them using wind in her left, wind in her right and fire in her left. She'd be able to make a combination style wind and fire violent ball, which and of course she tried throwing all of them, and well, they didn't exactly go far, though strangely enough the wind and fire combination could go around, say, around 30 centimetres away from her before dispelling, but instead of just, just going into a giant fireball, it just blew up violently. And of course Naruto was training these and was in a somewhat own private-ish training ground. It was training ground which Hiruzen gave to her so she could practice funjutsu in somewhat peace, so that if, say, it still went wrong, only somewhat her shadow, she'd use a shadow clone to activate it. So only, the shadow clone would be, dispelled and the ground would be damaged, but that was it. There was no real damage to, her or any, one else that carelessly, would waltz in or that. So yeah, and of course nobody really bothered to, none of the, not really Jonin, but, Arnbu would really bother, checking it out, because they knew that was, or at least the explosion and the fill of chakra, was coming from Naruto's training ground, somewhat private-ish training ground, so then they just figured it was a cell that somewhat went bad and blew up or that. So yeah, they didn't really realise what it actually was. And eventually she got it down to around being able to go 50 centimetres away from her. And though she also somewhat decided to try and combine wind and fire within her. Of course, Yuga hadn't exactly bothered just yet to tell her about elemental Gekigenkai or elemental bloodline limit, so I think it's blaze release or whatever it's called, what fire and wind make. That is of course lava, ice, blaze, I think, crystal, which is just an advanced earth release. Explosion release, dust release, which uses free, that's a whatever it's called, I don't know. I don't really remember what dust release is called, what it's classified as, but requires 3 of the 5 basic elements. Obviously swift release, which is lightning and wind, and though it would take her around a month to a month and a half to properly be able to somewhat mix wind and fire together, because initially she'd started with 50-50, though nothing somewhat happened. She slowly went with more wind and fire, and after seeing there was nothing changing and it actually got somewhat harder and harder, she decided to go the other way, more fire than wind, and eventually she could start doing jutsus, but they would last maybe a second or so before just dispelling or violently blowing up or that. Though eventually she managed to actually get it stable where, and of course more tuning over the somewhat year roughly she had left before she'd be a genin or tested to become a genin. She'd got it back, of course, unknown to her, at the time. Unknown to her, she just did something that was classified as impossible. And she of course wouldn't bother with seeing what water and wind could do, because she didn't know what could they do. She only did wind and fire because she knew wind and fire complemented each other perfectly. And anyway, though, After those only 5 elemental clones, she would then dispel them all, and the Hiruzen would somewhat call out if was that the last thing she wanted to show them. Yukina would say hi, that was, and somewhat the Hiruzen would somewhat tell her to have a 10-minute break, and after that 10 minutes he would tell her the results, though she was somewhat hoping that she'd pass, because she didn't really know just how somewhat difficult this maybe thing would be. Of course, though of course unknown to her, she was taking obviously wind, like elemental manipulation into incredibly high levels, obviously to compress water to a high degree requires a high amount of chakra manipulation to be able to manipulate the shape in that, to continue to manipulate the shape into the exact same centimeter or so bullet of water, as it constantly got as she constantly added more water to increase the pressure within it. That required an immense amount of chakra manipulation to be able to somewhat keep it from just blowing up or just increasing inside a 1,000 or so fold. So of course she didn't really obviously know that, as Yuga really hadn't. Yuga had somewhat obviously chakra elemental jutsus weren't really Yuga's thing, so she somewhat she'd give Naruto say scrolls on different elemental jutsus, and that was the best she could do, as Yuga had told her in the beginning of her somewhat elemental journey that she wouldn't be able to somewhat help her much, as she was a kenjutsu user. She didn't really use elemental jutsus that much or at all. And though Naruto of course said no problem, and that was obviously fine, and anyway, though of course 10 minutes later, and Hiruzen would come back and would somewhat with a smile on his face tell her that she passed, and she would have obviously Yukina would have a giant smile on her face, as she would I'll run and jump at Hiruzen, giving him a cuddle and thanking him, and that for allowing her to for passing her, and for it, and that she'd promised him that she wouldn't disappoint him in that. And Hiruzen would somewhat just smile and would somewhat tell her that and that she didn't really have to worry about disappointing him, as he was blown away. Heck, he didn't even know it was possible to do a fire and wind clone. They were deemed almost impossible to do. So, and he'd asked how she managed to do a wind and fire clone, and while she'd explained that fire was a lot easier to do than what people believed it was, and after telling Hiruzen, and Hiruzen actually going through the 4 set of hand signs, though of course Naruto can actually do the jutsu she showed off or without doing hand signs. And he would ask about the wind, the somewhat wind style clone, and she simply said, Well, that was a nightmare to do. You have to compress the air into, obviously, somewhat. You have to compress the air into your somewhat body shape, but you have to compress it to a very high degree, and it was initially hard for me to do, but the more I did it, the easier it got, and well, yeah. Though, if you want to try to, I would suggest practicing with the wind bullet first, and just go wind bullet. Why practice with that? Well, quite simple. You just like the wind bullet. The wind bullet gets more dangerous the higher, the more air that's in the bullet. So, say keep the bullet the same, say size, but make it make the inside say higher pressure that better, and that doing that makes it more dangerous. Though it takes a lot of pressure to get it to start showing any benefits, but after a while, the higher the pressure inside of it, the more dangerous it gets. Human be somewhat obviously blown away in that, and yeah, he would somewhat smile and go, you really are just like your mother and father, Naruto, Yukina is. So he'd somewhat blush and would thank Hiruzen for that compliment. And Hiruzen was somewhat wondering just how far she could go. Could she, could she master the Sengon? He was somewhat thinking, and he was somewhat wondering if he should order a dryer bag just to treat the damn Sengon, so that she could possibly, mess around with it and possibly inadvertently make, a elemental Rasengan. Though under him, she practically already has made a bastardized version of a Rasengan. Ironically, yeah. Anyway, though, Hiruzen would ask if she could do anything more, which she said that she could, but she wanted to keep them somewhat hidden for right now, as she wanted to somewhat show them when they were more perfected. Which Hiruzen would quirk an eyebrow as she'd simply state that she's got a jutsu she's somewhat working on, but it's like something you could do, say, close up in hand-to-hand combat, kind of, or as a somewhat short-ranged throwing projectile. Though she'd say that she's trying to get it long range, and the more she understands somewhat how her jutsu functions, the better, the more distance she can claw out of it. And yeah, he was in someone nod and would state that you can somewhat wait to, he's looking forward to seeing the jutsus in action. And yeah, though, she'd somewhat just nod, and Hiruzen would tell her to go. Hiruzen would somewhat tell her to arrive. To somewhat arrive here at whatever time she would in Naruto within canon. She'd arrive at, and he would also tell her the day after that to meet him again back here at the to meet him at the Hokage Tower in his office, as she'll then meet her joining Sensei then should go, what, I get no yon don't care personal Sensei Naruto. Though of course if Yugao wants to, she can continue to obviously train you in Kenjutsu, though she obviously will have, just like she did, just like when she trained with her, she'd occasionally be say often doing missions where you then get to say practice and using obviously messing about with ninjutsu or whatever else. She would nod like that, and yeah, and with that he's been telling her that obviously she can it says on giving her a headband, well, letting her somewhat choose from either black, blue or red, which should I think she'd maybe take the black, though you guys can tell me in the comments down below which one she'd think she may take. And with that, guys, I'm going to end it here. So if you have enjoyed part 2 to this series, tell me in the comments down below, and if you want part 3 to this one, or if you don't want a part 3, you're like, nah, I like the first part of this but not really this part, and I want part 4 of the original one, of course tell me in the comments down below. Or do you think I'm making Naruto not Naruto, Yukina too powerful? Again, also tell me in the comments down below, and I'll try and adjust it, or at least somewhat, because I don't want to make her somewhat obviously incredibly somewhat overpowered in the beginning. Yeah, should eventually get incredibly powerful. Obviously she will have to be, after all, Shippuden should have to go up against Madara and Town Beasts, so yeah, she's going to get incredibly powerful down the line with her own just experimentations of just elemental jutsus and that with the elements. Anyway, as I said, I'm ending it here. Hope you guys have a good day or night, depending on wherever you are and whenever you're watching this. And guys, good bye.